Hey boys, it's me, Skinny White Island Bloke. So I'm going to go over another build I've been working on with a friend of the stream, as you can see here, Sleaze. So what do we have? This is a build that we've come up with and kind of built out together. This is a big chonker assassin. So the main aspect of this build, as you can see, the big smacky stick, the big chonker, is this, Passion Thundermaul. So we're going to be using this to zeal everything down, Dragonflight to get in, to get around places, and then also traps and other utility skills to kind of buff up as much physical damage as we can to really bonk shit on the head. Love it. It's been so much fun, so I wanted to kind of go through stats, skills, gear, whatever, show you what, Kazim is doing, and then I'll do a showcase, and then we'll do a little duet, if you will, and we'll, kind of fly through chaos and show you how that works. So, this is my assassin here, so I'm level 88 assassin. Our base value of strength is quite high at 199. This is the bare minimum that you need for this. So I've got base 199, I have plus skills up to 253, which is exactly what you need for a Thundermaul. Just to cover the choice of weapon a little bit, so when it came to like choosing a weapon, we were going through different options. Some look cool, some had slightly higher attacks per second, but the attack speed breakpoints are kind of limited based on what increased attack speed is given on the weapon. So with burst of speed at about level 16 or just under that, we have enough attack speed where we can kind of get away with using different weapons. And we thought, what would be fucking hilarious than running around with an absolute smack damage stick like this. 527 at a pretty decent roll. And Passion does actually roll up to 210. So we thought, bugger it, we'll just do that, dump it into strength, and just try something different for a change. So you can actually find different alternatives. If you want, you can drop your damage down quite a bit and use something like an Archon staff would actually be an interesting option, or one of the alternative staffs, such as an Elder staff. I think Elder staff has slightly better average damage, but using something like that would actually allow you to save a significant amount of points in strength and then bump into vitality. But, I mean, stuff that you're not going to look as Chad, holding a big bonk like this. So that's why we went with Thundermaul. And obviously more damage. Dexterity, we've got nothing because since we need to invest so heavily into strength, we can't afford dexterity, so we bumped everything else into vitality. Because of that, the main issue that we came across with this build is attack rating, so I'll cover that just a little bit later. Resistances were a little bit tight as well, so I do have some resistance charms here to cover myself where need be. So we go over to stats, things that are important over here. Bing bong, we have 40% increased attack speed is relevant. Further down here, we do have 50% crushing blow from gear and 30 deadly strike. So that helps us, cut down some mobs a bit further. So we'll go over to the skills. Martial arts, we are only using Dragonflight for just maneuverability, really. And it helps with kind of tele-stomping mobs and also kind of focusing your direct damage when using Shadow Master as well as your Mercenary. So it's really good at pummeling down single targets and also just skipping straight to the Champion pack or Elite pack right through mobs. So Shadow Disciplines, this is where most of the points are kind of going to be. We don't need to use Mind Blast, so we've just got 1 point wonders down there, maxing out Shadow Master, which is so helpful, and we've got up to 16 into Burst of Speed. Just like some other passes on other characters, every point past level 16, it starts to have diminishing returns, so that's why I stopped at 16. You can actually min-max this, I think maybe like 10 to 12 might be perfect, or 14, and you could save a couple of points, but in case I want to, swap out and try some different weapons, 16 is fine, and I would recommend that for you at home if you want to try it. My leftover points I've put down into here, into Venom, so I'm level 88, so everything past then, I'm just going to be chucking into Venom for extra damage, really. So for traps, I've got everything filled in here that I would want, so I've got some into Fire Blast at base 9, so that's going to give my Death Sentry able to shoot 8 times. So that seems to be enough for me. I can put more in there, maybe you want to put more in, but I'm pretty happy with how that performs, so that's why from now on I'm just going to be putting into Venom. So again, I've got 9 there into Fire Blast, 1 point down the left, and then Lightning is maxed out and Death Sentry is maxed out. So I don't really care about Lightning Sentry, that's just a synergy. We're using Death Sentry as the main AoE because the Corpse Explosion is just too good to ignore. We tried ignoring it and we're like, nah, we gotta bloody do it. So we'll cover the Mercenary real quick. I'm running a Might Mercenary for max damage. So I'm running a Reaper's Toll with, we've got the Decrepify from there. So I've got Socketed Shell for that increased attack speed, obviously. Treachery from Boneweave and G-Face. So if you put a 15 IES Jewel in the helm, you can actually reach one higher frame on the jab, but I just prefer the Chan for Cannot Be Frozen. Just applies a bit more consistency so we can, you know, get a more consistent uptime of Decrepify. So we'll move over to my gear, and then we'll do a solo showcase, eh? So this is my Passion Thunder Maul. Just again, there are other options, you know, if you want to use like Passion in a different weapon, if you think like a Decapitator Axe is cool, if you think a Glorious Axe is cool, chuck it on, mate. You can kind of work it with this build, because when using Burst of Speed, you cover your kind of lack of attack speed, right? So you can get away with using slower weapons. So some of them are slightly faster bases, but when you come down to it, when we were actually testing it out, it's more damage and roughly the same hits per second. So we just, you know, decided to resort to a Thunder Maul. So this definitely can put in, you know, different bases to look cool to kind of match your character. What else we got? We've got my G-Face with 40 ED. We've got 2-piece Angelics in here, so that's to get a bit more attack rating. Reason why we're not doing another Angelic ring, is we need Raven Frost for a Cannot Be Frozen source. We can put it in the helm and get like a Cham, but it kind of made sense to get more attack rating, which we also needed from the Raven Frost itself. So I've got String of Theirs, we've got 8 Life Leech, we've got damage reduced by 15, and Laying of Hands is kind of just too good for a glove option, which helps our lack of resistance and fire, and then also increase attack speed and damage to demons, which is bloody brilliant, alongside Gore Riders here. So I've got CTA, and then I've also got just max damage and attack rating charm, so as close to 320 as possible, an Annie, Hellfire Torch, and then I've got 4 Grand Charms here with resistances to cover myself, because that's a bit of a, that's kind of lacking on this build. There we go, she was coming. You can put an Unrune or Resistance Jewel in the helm as well to cover the resistances, but the Grand Charms were enough for me. And then the rest, just chuck in any kind of damage lifers that you can kind of get. But that is about it for my gear. Let's go hop over to Outer Cloister, and I'll show you how this thing works, eh? Alright, so we switch over, we can buff up. So a good thing about buffing up is we do actually get plus 1, 2, 3 extra skills on switch, which we don't get from Passion. So when we do actually switch and do the BO, we can cast everything else here as well. So we chuck on Cloak, we can chuck on Venom, chuck on all the other boys. We're good to go. Oh, just look how thick she is running around with that fort armor and the absolute chonker. Look at that. Bloody brilliant. I know it's not the most practical. I mean, you guys will know by now, I don't make the most practical shit on this channel. I make stuff that I enjoy playing, that you might enjoy playing as well, and that just look fun and feel fun, you know? This build would be a lot different if I made it and didn't go traps at all. It definitely would be a bit tighter in certain areas of like skills and stats, and it would be restricted, I think, in certain areas that it can farm. So I think by maxing out the Shadow Master helps with, you know, Dragonflight, targeting mobs, and then the traps just allows that massive AoE clear. And don't forget, guys, the Mercenary Decrepify increases physical damage by 50% on the targets, right? So 50% of the damage of Corpse Explosion from Death Sentry, 50% of that 50% is going to be, you know, amped towards physical. So it is a bit of a buff too. Maybe someone in the comments wants to do the math. I can't be bothered. More damage equals more damage, boys. I'm little pea, small brain. You know, I don't care. Kill stuff, don't get hit. I mean, it's pretty easy, right? I think we get about the gist of the build now. We'll kill this chunk and then we'll go back to town now. There we are, there we are. Nice little warm-up. So, where's my man disappeared to? River of Flame. Let's go over and have a look. Do you want to come to town, my friend? I'll meet you in Pando. Here we are. This is Sleaze, subscriber, friend of the stream, supporter, fellow Thicky assassin as well. So we'll just get him to jump in the trade screen, and then we'll show you what he is wearing. Here we are. So for this, he is going to be using the Pride on the Mercenary as well as a Blessed Aim, because we thought we're going to be running this kind of together. We might as well benefit from all sources, right? There's no point in both of us running Might Mercenaries, but when covering the rest of the gear, it is pretty same, you know, because we found that kind of works the best. There is a few different alternatives for gloves, and also the death set was an option we considered, the 2-piece for gloves and the belt. And we also considered like 3-piece Angelics. We considered Hesiris belt and boots, which is not a bad contender, but you know, we do miss out on the leech from string and then also the damage from Gore Riders. But this is kind of about it, what we have for, I mean, this current version. Maybe it'll change, maybe. I'm excited to up the death set, so I mean, I'll definitely be doing that when 2.4 comes around. So well, I think we're good to go. I think I'll switch over and we can buff up again, and then we'll clear Chaos and show you how that works. So this is officially P2, officially my first video. That's not P1, how exciting. Also in 2.4, they're reducing the casting delay, I believe, on Dragonflight, which is going to make it a lot more nicer to just move around. Oh, every time I just like crawl right to the edge. Come on, there's a mob over there. Okay, we're good. It's so satisfying just smacking a Thunder Maul, because nobody really uses this weapon. It's such a cool weapon. It's not really logical to use in min-max in-game builds, obviously because the strength is so goddamn high, right? Because you need to put 253 strength. That's huge. Like, that pretty much restricts any build that uses that. Maybe, like, except Barbarian, potentially. But he has passives, right? So, I mean, if you put that much into strength for any other build, you're going to have to dump everything else into Vitality to cover yourself, so you have a decent life pool. And then also, because of that, you've got nothing into Dexterity. Because, remember that Thunder Maul doesn't actually require any high Dexterity requirement, which is good. But, I mean, it also means that our Dexterity is literally the base value of 20, right? So, we need to find other sources of attack rating, hence why, you know, I talked about alternatives that we considered for that. I think in 2.4 I would like to kind of, you know, revisit this, you know, with maybe upping Deaths and Hesiris and testing that out. I know I can test them now. I mean, upping it is not really going to do much. But, you know, they look cool, I suppose. So we've got a Physical Commune here. Physical Immune. Oh, there we are. Decrepify, easy peasy. And we also got our Sentries. So Sentries does over 1k. We got 1380 on mine, which is not bad at all. One thing I realized I didn't do, sorry, I'll be up there in a second. I didn't actually buff up with my enchant, so we'll do that here. Bing, bong, bing. Switch that back there, and we'll switch to Dragonflight. So we're sitting at 14,590. That is when we are in Blessed Aim range. So with Conk and Might all up, we've got over 6k. Looking pretty tasty. So I guess you could call this like a hybrid assassin of sorts, right? Zeal, melee, kinda martial arts, since we're using, you know, Dragonflight on occasion. But it's just something different. It was a different, you know, a different kind of playstyle, and that's That's what I enjoy kind of looking for in some of these builds. I mean, there's only so much you can do, right, in a game that's been out for like nearly 2 decades. I mean, I don't really expect myself to find, you know, to come up with like brand new shit that no one's seen. But I mean, there definitely is uncommon ways to play, uncommon items that are used, uncommon like items and skills that kind of combo together better than others that are definitely outshined by certain options. I think, you know, some people would probably agree that, you know, when rune words were introduced, a lot of stuff were really outshined. Like I think maybe most notably might be like back in the old patches, there was like Grandfather and all those uniques, and then as soon as Grief and other things came out, they were, you know, kind of top of the hierarchy, top of the pyramid there. But if you want to be playing, you know, the best of the best, you kind of know what channels you can, you know, have a look at, or what other builds you can look at. But if you're looking for different shit, if you're looking for other ways that you can clear content that, you know, don't have to be top of the range builds, you can still clear. Obviously it's not going to be the best since you're not running, you know, full massive rune words and super expensive gear, but the whole idea of making weird builds and stuff like this is that it's still viable to do different stuff that is off meta. It's still fun. Your characters can still look cool, and you can clear hell content and make it, you know, consistent. Consistent enough. I think that's cool. Easy peasy. Look at that. Well, that's about it. Bit of a different video, this one, but thank everybody for watching. If this is something that you'd like to see in the future, if you have any other weird ideas, you know, for builds, as I always say, chuck it down in the comments. I'll read that shit. But aside from that, you know, share it around, share it to your grandma, share it to your daughter, share it to your dog. Appreciate you. Love you.